The mind is a battlefield far more treacherous than any field of war. In the heart of the samurai, victory was never claimed over others, but over the restless currents of fear, ego, and desire. Strength alone could not conquer these invisible enemies. Only discipline, presence, and the sacred codes of Bushido could forge a warrior capable of true mastery. Haru, a young samurai of restless ambition, arrives at a remote mountain dojo seeking power and glory. Yet Master Sato, the aged mentor whose spirit is tempered like steel, sees what Haru cannot. The battles he must fight are within. His hands may hold a sword, but his mind and heart are untrained. Every impulse, every fear, every ego-driven thought stands in the way of transformation. Through silence, reflection, and the ancient system of incremental mastery, Haru will learn that the path of a warrior is not built on force, but on stillness and awareness. He will confront the shadow within, endure trials that strip ego from action, and embrace the harsh lessons of the warrior's way. Only by walking this path can he learn the ancient method to master any inner battle, the method no one teaches, yet every samurai has relied upon for centuries. This story will guide you through courage, humility, and presence. Scroll Chapter 1. The warrior who feared himself the mountain air was sharp with frost as Haru ascended the narrow path to Master Sato's dojo. Pines swayed silently in the morning wind, and the distant peaks glowed with the first rays of sun. Haru's chest heaved, not from the climb, but from anticipation. He had trained since youth with sword and spear, earning praise in villages and minor skirmishes. Yet a restless energy gnawed at him. A shadow that no duel, no victory, no accolade had ever quieted. He believed strength would fill the void inside, yet every strike left him hollow. Master Sato awaited at the entrance, a figure carved from years of discipline, eyes sharp but calm like still water. His robe moved lightly in the wind, yet the presence he commanded anchored the space. "Naru," he said, voice low and certain, "you seek power, yet you carry a storm within. The sword alone will not settle it." Haru bowed, pride and impatience coiling in equal measure. "O master, I wish to train with the blade. Show me strength and I will conquer all that threatens me." Sato shook his head. "First you must conquer the warrior you cannot see. You cannot strike what hides in shadows. You must sit, observe, and meet yourself." Haru bristled. To sit still? To do nothing? His muscles itched for action, his mind scrambled for battles, enemies, victories. Yet the mountain was silent, and Sato's gaze did not waver. There was no debate. Inside the dojo, the air smelled of aged wood and incense. Sato led Haru to the meditation platform. "Sit," he instructed. No weapons, no movement, nothing but presence. Haru forced himself to obey. His legs ached within the unnatural stillness, his spine stiff against the floorboards. Minutes stretched, then hours. At first his thoughts screamed, "I should be striking. I should be moving. I am wasting time." He shifted, closed his eyes, tried to force calm. But the inner storm only roared louder. Images of failures, fears, and regrets surged forward. Faces of those he had lost, opportunities he had missed, the gnawing sensation that he was never enough. His chest tightened, sweat dampened his brow. For the first time, Haru realized the battlefield was not outside but within. Each impulse to escape, each clenching of teeth, each judgment of himself was an opponent as real as any warrior. Sato's voice broke through, quiet yet commanding. Notice it. Naming. Fear, doubt, impatience. They are not enemies. They are guides. Most men flee, run from this arena. A true warrior sits and confronts it. Haru's breath shook. He had believed courage was drawn from the outside world, from defeating others, from earning renown. Now courage was measured by endurance and stillness, by facing the self he had long denied. Slowly awareness crept in. The tight chest, the racing thoughts, the restless legs, all were signals, maps to the battles he must fight first. Hours passed. Haru's body ached, his mind strained, yet a subtle clarity emerged. Each breath became anchor, each exhale a release. He saw the patterns of his mind, the endless loops of ego and fear. The storm inside him remained, but for the first time he could observe it without surrendering. Presence became a weapon, discipline a shield. Sato stepped beside him. A strength without awareness is empty. A sword strikes the world, but presence strikes the self. Only by mastering this can a warrior move without being moved by impulse or fear. Haru opened his eyes. He no longer felt the need to fight, to prove, to dominate. The mountain, the dojo, the wind. They were mirrors reflecting his inner state, And in their reflection, he saw a fragment of himself, raw and unguarded, waiting to be tempered. He rose slowly, body trembling, sweat and frost clinging to his skin. There was no applause, no glory, only a profound exhaustion and a quiet awakening. The lesson was simple yet brutal. The fiercest battle is not against another, but against the self that hides behind pride, fear, and restlessness. Haru bowed deeply to Sato, understanding for the first time that courage is not in the strike, but in the act of meeting oneself fully, without flinching. The warrior he had sought outside had always been inside, waiting to be faced. As the sun rose higher, spilling light across the peaks, Sato spoke one last instruction for the day. Tomorrow, you will journey to the mirror of reflection. There, fear will show its true form, and you will see what lies behind your ambition. Remember this, Haru. Mastery begins with the courage to confront the unseen enemy within. Scroll the path to the mirror of reflection wound steeply through mist-shrouded pines, each step heavier than the last. Haru's legs ached from the climb, but the weight of anticipation pressed harder against his chest. The morning sun filtered dimly through fog, painting the forest in pale silver. Every sound, the crunch of needles underfoot, the distant call of a crow felt magnified, as if nature itself were holding its breath. Master Sato walked silently beside him, the old warrior's presence steady and unwavering. The fear is not an enemy to be destroyed, Sato said. It is a signal, a compass. Sato. It is a signal, a compass. Only by looking upon it clearly can a warrior move with certainty. Haru's stomach tightened. He had thought he knew fear. He had felt the tension of combat, the sting of failure, the embarrassment of misstep. But Sato's words hinted at something deeper, a fear untouched by victory, hidden beneath pride, aggression, and ambition. Finally, they arrived at the pond. Its surface was perfectly still, glass-like, cradled in a ring of moss-covered stones. The water reflected the forest, the sky, the mountains. But when Sato motioned for Haru to kneel, he understood the pond held more than physical reflections. Look, Sato said. Not at what you wish to see, but what is? Haru stared. At first he saw only himself as he had always known. A skilled, determined warrior, proud of his strength. Then, as the minutes passed, the surface seemed to shift. The reflection changed, revealing not the hardened exterior, but the raw, trembling form beneath. A child clutching at shadows, eyes wide with uncertainty, mouth set in fear. Haru's breath caught. Shame, humiliation, and disbelief surged together. He had hidden this boy behind layers of pride, behind the mask of ambition. He had assumed strength was everything, that courage was measured by victories won and foes defeated. Now the truth confronted him. He had been running from himself. Sato's voice cut through the silence. What do you see? Haru swallowed, words catching in his throat. I see fear. I see the boy I tried to hide. Good, Sato said. Many deny it, flee it, fight it with swords or anger. But fear is not the enemy. It is a guide. Observe it, breathe through it, and you will find the path to transformation. Haru knelt, eyes fixed on the water. Every tremor in the reflection echoed in his chest. Every shiver mirrored the anxiety he had carried through battles, through accolades, through moments of seeming triumph. He realized that his ambition had been a shield, ego a mask, pride, prison, friendship. All of it had hidden the truth. That fear was not weakness, but the doorway to mastery. Sato placed a hand lightly on his shoulder. To master the outer world, you must first master the inner. The ancient samurai knew this. They named it Zanshin, awareness, vigilance, and presence. Fear teaches vigilance. Courage without fear is hollow. True strength rises from acknowledging the shadow, not denying it. Haru exhaled slowly, deliberately. The tightness in his chest loosened slightly. For the first time, he could observe his own fear without fleeing. He felt the pulse of it, the rhythm of his heart, the tension in his shoulders. He allowed himself to feel it fully, naming each surge. I am anxious. I am unworthy. I am afraid of failure. Each admission was a small liberation, each acknowledgement a step toward clarity. Hours passed as he remained by the pond, meditating with eyes open and mind alert. The reflection became a teacher, showing not only fear but the patterns that had long governed his choices. Rushing, striving, avoiding discomfort. Each image in the water guided him deeper, teaching patience, observation, and presence. Finally, Haru rose, legs trembling but spirit steady. He looked at Sato. Fear is not something to destroy, but something to see. It points the way. Sato nodded. Yes, all warriors face fear, but few look it squarely in the eye. You have begun the journey. The inner path is relentless, yet it is the only path that leads to true mastery. As they descended the mountain, Haru felt the weight of the lesson settling into his bones. The restless energy that had driven him, the pride that had blinded him, the ambitions that had demanded recognition, all were now tempered by a new awareness. Fear was no longer an adversary to fight but a guide to follow, a mirror revealing the self he had long ignored. The journey ahead promised trials of humility, endurance, and presence. Yet for the first time, Haru understood that transformation did not arrive through conquest, but through observation, acceptance, and the disciplined courage to face one's own reflection. The sun rose pale and steady over the mountain dojo, illuminating dew-laden courtyards and the moss-covered stones of ancient paths. Haru felt a strange tension as he entered the training grounds. No weapons, no sparring, no triumphs awaited him here. Instead, Master Sato handed him a wooden bucket and a broom, tasks that seemed mundane, almost beneath a warrior of his skill. Yet in Sato's calm, unyielding gaze, Haru sensed the weight of purpose behind each chore. Every act, Sato said, can reveal the spirit. Pride resists simplicity. Ego despises repetition. Observe yourself through service, and the path will become clear. Haru carried water from the mountain stream, the bucket's weight a constant reminder of gravity and effort. Each step demanded mindfulness. Each careful placement of water into the basin tested patience. Sweat dripped from his brow, muscles burned, and frustration began to rise. This is meaningless, he thought. What honor is there in menial labor? Sato's voice, calm and unwavering, reached him. The warrior's path is not always in striking the enemy. Sometimes, mastery is found in the quiet surrender to discipline. Haru bent low to sweep the courtyard, each motion deliberate, each stroke leaving behind not only cleared dust, but an awareness of the present moment. At first his mind rebelled, urging him to rush, to finish quickly, to escape monotony. But with each repetition, the rhythm became meditative. The sweep of the broom mirrored the sweep of his thoughts, clearing clutter, letting go of pride, observing without judgment. Later, he served tea to the younger students, bowing to each with genuine attentiveness. Humiliation pricked at him. He was a warrior, a fighter, yet here he bent low to serve those of lesser skill. Anger and resentment flared, and for a moment he wanted to strike out, to demand recognition. But Sato's principles echoed in his mind. Mu no kokoro, the empty heart. Action without attachment, without ego, flows naturally. Haru exhaled slowly, letting the resistance dissolve. The act of service became not a concession, but a lesson. Each humble task revealed the subtle tyranny of his pride. The way he measured self-worth against skill, the way he sought validation in others' eyes. Humility was not weakness. It was clarity. In each movement, in each careful gesture, presence grew, and the ego receded. Sato observed silently as Haru carried water, tended the gardens, and helped novices refine their stances. Each act was a mirror, reflecting the patterns of his mind, the grip of his old identity. Slowly, Haru felt the layers peel away, leaving a core of attention and discipline he had never known. Hours merged into a rhythm, a quiet meditation in motion. The courtyard, once a battlefield of ambition and restlessness, became a training ground for spirit. Haru learned to anticipate the weight of the bucket, the resistance of the soil, the posture of his body. In doing so, he began to understand the subtleties of control, not over others, but over himself. Sato approached as Haru rested briefly, sweat cooling on his skin. A warrior adds skill, but true mastery often lies in subtraction. Ego, impatience, desire for recognition. These are the weights that prevent movement from being pure. Learn to act without attachment, and your presence will guide every strike, every step, every breath. Haru nodded, absorbing the lesson. He realized that the pride he had carried, the relentless drive for outward accomplishment, had been a cage. Discipline rooted in humility and awareness was stronger than brute strength or technical skill. The simplest actions, lifting water, sweeping the courtyard, bowing in service, were as demanding as any duel, requiring observation, presence, and patience. By evening, the courtyard glowed in the soft light of the setting sun. Haru's body was weary, but his mind was sharper than ever. The ego that had once driven him to prove himself at all costs now rested quietly. Its power diminished. Presence had taken root. He understood, finally, that mastery did not demand applause or recognition. It demanded attention, humility, and the courage to perform every act with consciousness. Sato spoke one last time as they walked to the meditation hall. The ego is a relentless teacher if ignored. Each act of humility weakens its grip and strengthens the spirit. You are learning to act without attachment, and in this, your mind becomes free to move with clarity. Tomorrow, you will face a trial that will test your courage in isolation, the night of severing. There, the inner battlefield will demand everything you have cultivated. Haru bowed deeply, feeling the quiet power of discipline settling in his chest. The mountain wind whispered through the trees, carrying the subtle promise of the challenges to come. Pride had been confronted, humility embraced, and in this delicate balance, the seeds of true mastery had begun to bloom. A storm descended upon the mountain as evening fell, tearing through the trees with furious wind and rain. Thunder cracked like ancient drums, and lightning split the sky, illuminating the jagged cliffs in stark white. Haru stood at the dojo's edge, drenched, muscles taut with anticipation and unease. Master Sato's voice cut through the roar of the storm. Tonight you will sit alone in the Hall of Severing. Nothing will comfort you, no guidance, no distractions, only yourself and your fears. Haru's heart thumped violently. Every instinct screamed to flee, to seek warmth, companionship, distraction. But the lessons of meditation, presence, and humility had prepared him for this moment. He inhaled deeply, letting the cold air fill his lungs, and followed Sato to the ancient stone hall, a cavernous chamber where countless warriors had faced themselves across generations. Its walls were cold, rough, and unyielding. The floor was bare, save for the faint outline of mats worn smooth by time. "You sit," Sato commanded, gesturing to the center of the hall. "Tonight you confront the warrior you have avoided. Every fear, every regret, every shadow will rise. Do not resist. Observe, endure." Haru lowered himself to the floor, cross-legged, eyes open. The storm outside echoed the tempest within him. Memories, long suppressed, surged forward. Faces of friends lost, moments of cowardice, the humiliation of youthful arrogance. They pressed against him like waves. His chest tightened, his mind raced. Fear whispered that he was unworthy, that he would fail this ultimate trial. At first, Haru struggled to remain still. His body trembled from cold, fatigue, and tension. Thoughts of escape tempted him. He could leave, abandon the test, seek comfort. Yet he recalled Sato's words, the lessons of Zanshin, humility, and the Musashi method. He allowed himself to breathe, to anchor in presence, to observe without reacting. Hours passed in this inner battlefield. The storm outside raged, yet within, every gust of wind, every echo of thunder became a teacher. Each memory, each pang of shame, each flicker of fear was a reflection, not a threat. Haru saw the boy he had been, restless, impulsive, driven by pride. He saw the young man he had become, strong, skilled, yet still clinging to ego and external validation. And he saw the warrior he could become, calm, present, and unshakable. As midnight approached, exhaustion gnawed at him. The hall felt endless, the shadows long and dark. Doubt surged again, whispering that this trial was too great, that he could not endure. But Haru remembered the lessons of humility in action, the surrender to effort, the patience in repetition, the discipline of presence. He breathed, observed, and allowed the storm within and without to wash over him without resistance. At the deepest hour, a revelation surfaced. All the battles he had fought in life, the duels, the contests, the struggles to prove himself, were echoes of a single truth. He had never truly been fighting the world. Every fear, every frustration, every ego-driven impulse was a duel with himself. Understanding this, a strange serenity settled over him. The storm still roared outside, but inside, Haru discovered a calm, unmovable center. By the first light of dawn, the hall was silent except for the slow drip of rain from the stone walls. Haru emerged exhausted, drenched, yet profoundly transformed. The storm within had passed, leaving him lighter, clearer, and free. His muscles ached, but his spirit had grown, tempered like steel in the forge of the night. Sato approached quietly, his presence a steady anchor. "You have faced the deepest currents of yourself," he said. "Few warriors endure this trial. You have learned that true courage is not the absence of fear, but the endurance of it. Every shadow you confronted has strengthened your spirit, and every regret you observed has sharpened your clarity." Haru nodded, feeling the weight and the liberation of the lesson. The fear that had driven him, the restlessness that had plagued him, and the pride that had constrained him, all had been tempered in the crucible of the night. Presence had become not a technique, but a state of being. Ego had been examined, understood, and subdued, and subdued. The storm had ended, leaving the mountain bathed in soft, pale light. Haru stepped outside the hall, feeling the cold stones beneath his feet, the damp wind on his skin, and the quiet strength in his chest. He understood now that the most ruthless form of self-mastery was not external recognition or physical triumph. It was the silent, relentless confrontation of the self. Soto spoke one final instruction as they descended the mountain path. The night of severing shows a warrior, the battlefield, with within. From this place, your training will shift. Strength and skill alone cannot guide you. Presence, awareness, and discipline must lead every action. Walk forward with this understanding. Haru exhaled, a deep, deliberate breath that carried away the last remnants of his inner turmoil. The mountain, the hall, the storm, they had become teachers, revealing the invisible currents of his spirit. He had endured, and in endurance he had been reborn. The morning after the storm, the mountain air was crisp, carrying the scent of wet pine and stone. Haru emerged from the stone hall of the severing, muscles stiff but heart steady. The trials of the previous night had stripped him bare, leaving only presence, discipline, and awareness. The wind whispered through the cedars as if acknowledging the transformation within him. Every leaf, every stone, every breath demanded attention. For the first time, Haru felt the power of stillness. Not weakness, but a deliberate force that could anchor body, mind, and spirit. Master Sato waited in the courtyard, eyes calm and unwavering. "Daru," he said, "and now you will learn to fuse strength with stillness. Movement without presence is chaos. Stillness without action is emptiness. Mastery is the union of both." Haru nodded, understanding that this training would be unlike any previous physical regimen. Today, he would not strike, nor block, nor parry. Instead, every movement would be deliberate, each gesture measured, every breath counted. He began with the simplest of actions, stepping forward, lifting a wooden sword, lowering it, and repeating, slowly, deliberately, observing balance, weight, and intention. Each motion became a meditation, a dialogue between body and mind, presence guiding action rather than ego. Hours passed. Haru's muscles burned, yet his mind remained calm. Each swing of the sword, each shift of weight, each pivot carried not aggression, but clarity. He noticed the smallest imbalances, how his shoulder tensed, how his breath shortened, how his gaze drifted. With each correction, his movements became fluid, precise, and potent. He realized that the same energy which had once scattered into restlessness now flowed with deliberate purpose. Sato watched silently. Any blade alone does not make a warrior. Awareness makes the strike true. Presence transforms force into action without resistance, intention without hesitation. Haru closed his eyes briefly, feeling the rhythm of the dojo. The creak of wooden floors, the whisper of wind through sliding doors, the faint scent of incense lingering from meditation. He was fully present in each sensation, aware of his heartbeat, the tension in his forearms, the alignment of his spine. Mastery was no longer an external measure. It was internal, invisible, and undeniable. Next, Soto guided him through paired exercises with fellow students, observing rather than reacting, responding rather than initiating. Haru's strikes were minimal, yet devastating in precision. His defense was anticipatory, not reactive. He discovered the Musashi principle of a no-wasted motion. Every movement had purpose. Every choice flowed naturally from awareness. He felt the balance of energy between offense and defense, strength and stillness, action and patience. Later, Haru practiced walking the grounds. Each step was deliberate, weight distributed evenly, gaze steady. His mind was quiet, observing without judgment, listening to the rhythm of nature around him. He bowed to the young novices, not out of obligation, but with genuine acknowledgement of their presence. Every action carried intention. Every silence held meaning. By afternoon, Sato led him to a small clearing overlooking the valley. "The world will test you with noise, distraction, and chaos," he said. "A true warrior does not respond blindly. Strength must be tempered by stillness. Action must arise from awareness. Only then does mastery exist." Haru inhaled deeply, feeling the mountains around him, the weight of air, the pull of gravity, the pulse of life in the forest. Movement and stillness were no longer opposites. They were one. Every breath, every thought, every motion flowed in harmony. He understood now that the path of mastery was not in striking harder, faster, or more skillfully. It was in being fully present, allowing the body to act with clarity, guided by a mind unshaken by distraction. As dusk approached, Haru knelt in meditation, feeling the integration of all he had learned: the confrontation with fear, the humility in service, the endurance of the night, and the deliberate cultivation of stillness. He was no longer restless. He was no longer driven by ego. He moved with intention, spoke with purpose, and breathed with awareness. Sato placed a hand on his shoulder. Wu have taken the lessons of the inner battlefield and translated them into motion. Strength without stillness is wild. Stillness without strength is hollow. You now walk the path of the true warrior, where presence and discipline guide every choice. Haru rose, feeling the calm authority of mastery settle in his chest. The mountain air carried the quiet affirmation of his transformation. He had moved from reaction to presence, from impulse to intention, from restlessness to grounded clarity. The warrior within was now fully aligned with the spirit of the mountain, steady as the stones beneath his feet, resilient as the cedars around him. Scrolled dawn broke over the mountain, casting long, golden rays across the misted valleys. Haru stood at the edge of the dojo, the peak behind him steeped in shadow and memory. Months of training had passed, months of stillness, confrontation, and discipline. Every step, every motion, every breath had been honed through meditation, humility, and presence. Yet as he gazed at the horizon, he understood something crucial. Mastery is not proclaimed, not applauded, and rarely seen. It is carried silently within the heart and mind, invisible to all but the self. Master Sato approached, leaning lightly on his staff. "The world beyond these mountains will not celebrate the battles you have fought here," he said. "No medals, no cheers, no witnesses. True mastery is the silent conquest of self. Remember this, Haru. Remember this, Haru. The most ruthless victories are those unseen." Haru nodded. The lesson resonated deeply. In the villages below, men measured worth by strength, skill, and renown. But the victories that had shaped him, the hours of stillness, the confrontation with fear, the surrender of ego, the disciplined integration of presence, were invisible. They had left no mark on stone, no record in history, no witness but the silent mountains and the unyielding sky. Yet these victories were absolute, unshakable, and eternal. He descended the mountain path, feeling each step, each shift of balance, each inhalation with deliberate awareness. The world seemed louder, faster, more chaotic than the dojo, yet Haru moved through it with calm authority. The wind, the cries of villagers, the jostle of crowds, all flowed past him like water around a stone. He responded not out of reaction, but with measured presence. Every glance, every word, every motion carried intention. Ego no longer dictated his actions. Fear no longer controlled his mind. Along the way, he encountered challenges that would have once provoked anger, frustration, or haste. A merchant stumbled into him, spilling baskets of fruit. Haru bent to help, not out of obligation or recognition, but as an extension of awareness. A stray dog barked at him, and he paused, observing its movements before passing. Each interaction became a test of the inner discipline he had cultivated, a subtle battlefield where presence, not force, defined mastery. Sato's teachings echoed in his mind. Strength without stillness is wild. Stillness without strength is hollow. Haru felt both within himself now, fused in a harmony that guided every action. His mind moved with clarity, his body with purpose, and his spirit with quiet confidence. This was the invisible victory, unseen by the eyes of others, yet absolute within. By evening, Haru reached the village at the mountain's base. Children ran past laughing, elders tended gardens. The air was thick with the smells of cooking and earth. He observed without judgment, acted without attachment, and moved without haste. Presence defined him, yet no one noticed the transformation. He carried no banner, raised no sword, yet in his calm authority, the essence of mastery radiated silently. Sato's voice came to him, carried on memory. The path of a warrior is not in recognition, but in mastery of the self. This is the form of discipline no one praises, yet it shapes every choice, every action, every life. Walk it quietly, and you will never be shaken. Haru reflected on his journey. He had faced the restless storms of ambition, the mirror of fear, the humbling labors of service, and the night that severed ego from action. He had learned to move with awareness, to act with intention, to breathe with presence. His victories were unseen, but they were complete. The warrior within was tempered, disciplined, and unbreakable. As dusk settled, Haru sat on a stone by the river, watching the current flow with effortless certainty. He felt a deep serenity, a quiet power that needed no affirmation. The world could remain oblivious. The battles fought within him were enough. Ego, fear, and restlessness had been confronted, observed, and transformed. He had become the master of his own spirit. The final lesson was clear. Life's greatest victories are internal, carried silently through discipline, courage, and presence. Recognition is transient, mastery endures. Haru rose, shoulders squared, gaze steady, and walked into the village, a man invisible to the world yet unshakable in himself, a true samurai of spirit. The greatest battles are fought within. Mastery arises not from defeating others, but from conquering the self through courage, presence, and disciplined awareness.